Alright guys, Jameson and Alex here. Today we are bringing you the Oath of Radiance Paladin. And this is from the Dragonbond Kickstarter.
Yes.
I will preface it as well, this is early release, so it's tentative to change, but
Yes.
it's in final testing stages,
Yes.
which if you see any updates or things you want to add, be sure to let them know
Yes.
in the surveys and stuff. So, that being said, if you're new to the channel or the series, what we're going to do is go through all of the abilities gained in the subclass. We're going to rate the roleplay, combat, and synergy based on the abilities gained, how they improve on the base class abilities.
Bingo.
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to be entered in our D&D Beyond Sourcebook bundle.
That one's big. It's so big.
All that being said, let's get right into it.
As a paladin, we have we have 4 rules. They're called tenets. For this one, it is strength through community, bravery and generosity, vigilance against the darkness, and awake the light within. These are rules paladins live by. If you have not seen enough paladin stuff out there with D&D, like, the paladins are unique to having their own, like, actual written down rules for what the subclass is, not just a flavor, paragraph written that's going to kind of give you an idea. Like, there's actual rules here, people. Rules. We get some oath spells on top of that with Healing Word, Shield of Faith, Lesser Restoration, Warning Bond, Counterspell, Daylight, Banishment, Guardian of Faith, Flame Strike, and Greater Restoration. So a lot of very holy stuffs. And then there's a couple of screw you buttons with Counterspell, Banishment, and of course Flame Strike's just a big AoE thing. So
We'll take it. We'll take it.
Yes.
Level 3, we get our Channel Divinity options. First is Castigation of Light. You can use as an action, your inner light shines forth, and every hostile creature within 30 feet of you must make a Charisma save.
Wonderful.
Creature takes radiant damage equal to 2d8 plus your paladin level on a failed saving throw, or half as much on a success. Moreover, a null or aberration creature, just side tangent here, null is part of a creature type that's part of the campaign setting. So,
But it's good that they give you aberration as well.
yes.
Yep.
If it fails its saving throw, it's turned for 1 minute or until it takes damage. A turned creature must spend its turn trying to move as far away from you as it can, and can't willingly move to a space within 30 feet of you. Also can't take reactions, which is important. For its action, it can take only the dash action or try to escape from an effect that prevents it from moving. If the creature can't move, the creature can take the dodge action. Whew. And then the second Channel Divinity option is Allied Bastion. You can use it as a bonus action, and it gives an inspirational declaration on the tenets of light. Each creature of your choice that can hear you within 30 feet gains temp HP equal to 1d8 plus your charisma modifier. So you get a nice offensive option and a solid defensive healing option.
Next up is the brilliant excoriation. So many words in the English language. We get to keep finding all the fun ones. Once on each of your turns, when you hit a creature with your Divine Smite feature, a different creature of your choice within 30 feet is immediately outlined in pearlescent radiance. The next attack roll made against the highlighted target before the end of your next turn has advantage. At 18th level, 2 creatures of your choice within 30 feet of you are illuminated. So think of it as, Guiding Bolt, the spell, hits something, and then it gives advantage on the next attack. This is that, but it's something else. Instead of the target attack, you get to Guiding Bolt affect something else nearby.
Yeah.
I will also specify, if you notice, not an aura.
Right.
For a level 7 ability.
Yes.
So
interesting.
It's
kind of an aura because it's within 30 feet.
Right.
But it doesn't affect allies.
Yeah, it's an effect that takes place in a range, but it's not an aura that affects multiple people at once. At level 15, we have Amberotic Censure, because again, all the fun words in the English language. The first time you deal radiant damage to a creature on a turn, doesn't say your turn also, but it's a
opportunity attacks.
It must succeed on a Constitution saving throw, or be blinded until the end of its next turn. If you deal radiant damage more than one creature simultaneously, you choose one of the creatures to make the saving throw. So if you have an AoE, blind effect, spell, ability, whatever, you only get to pick one of the creatures to force this saving throw from this. It's a con save, don't love, but there is no limit to how much you do this. It's just as long as you do radiant damage on a given turn. It's like you're praying for any kind of effect that gives you a weapon that just does radiant damage as part of what it does. You're just like,
it does.
Blind chance.
It would work with your Channel Divinity option as well.
Yes.
So for like an AoE, it would give you the chance for the Charisma save and con save at the same time, which is interesting.
Double saves.
Yeah. Before we get on to the capstone, just give a little bit more information about Dragonbond.
Yes.
I think the biggest feature of this is the ability to bond with a dragon that goes along with your party, and it's just kind of built into your party. There's rules and mechanics for aerial dragonback combat, which is really cool. A 300-page book, so lots of content in this
Plenty
one.
of content in there.
3 new class options as well.
Yes. All themed around the book, obviously.
Yes, Dragon
Makes
Hunter,
sense.
Dragon Herald, Vala Adept, which Vala, again, power source. It's the way to explain magic in this campaign. So,
Sure.
really interesting new mechanics for that stuff.
I think the thing that caught my attention the most reading through it quickly was the dragon broods. It's almost like a sub-race of dragons. Kuatals and things kind of like Mesoamerica kind of thing. They even have some undead thing. Like the dragons look completely different. You can see these are unique, delving further into branching off of what is standard, but still would make total sense if that existed in 5th edition.
You never have too many dragons,
No,
right?
it's in the title.
Always. 8 new subclasses, 14 race options. So there's tons of character options. You got a whole new campaign. You got dragons, 50 plus new monsters, 50 plus spells. Make sure you check it out before the time runs out. Link in the description down below. All that being said, the capstone is Avatar of Light. And guess what?
It's a
you
paladin.
become an avatar.
It's a paladin capstone.
For 1 minute as an action. You have resistance to necrotic, bludgeoning, piercing, and slashing damage. Okay?
Makes sense.
When you make an attack action on your turn against a null or aberration creature, you can make 1 additional attack as part of that action.
Yeah.
Alright. And lastly, at the start of each of your turns, you regain 10 hit points, as do your allies within 30 feet of you. So, that's kind of an aura.
There's your aura.
A healing aura.
But it only lasts for a minute, so it's not the regular aura that happens all the time.
And it is once a day, as normal.
As with almost all the paladin capstones.
So those are all the abilities gained in the subclass. So let's just jump right into the rating portion. First up is the roleplay asterisk, as always. Talking about roleplay, we're talking about interacting with the world around you, interacting with NPCs, non-combat scenarios, avoiding combat, basically things outside the initiative order. Not talking about your class fantasy, history, lore, background, that's on you. Can't rate you. Can't rate the abilities gained in the subclass, how they might improve your potential in those role play scenarios. So, looking at this, I mean, we do have some interesting spell options. So you have to keep in mind you are a half-caster, so you're not crazy about the spells. Yeah, right on the wall.
It's on the board.
So, yeah, I mean, there's some, like, Lesser Restoration,
we're gonna get a board eventually.
Daylight, maybe Niche Banishment. I mean, Greater Restoration.
I
There's some
mean,
stuff.
let's be real. You can totally use banishment in RP.
You can.
You
It's
want to
kind of
intimidate.
expensive.
It is, but if you want to intimidate somebody, did I die?
Well, I mean, it'd have to be barring the right circumstance, obviously, because they have to go. Well, unless you find out they weren't actually from this plane and you just straight up
Got rid of
legit-
them, and
like,
then you couldn't come back. You're like,
whoopsies. Sorry, I didn't mean to send you home, but it is what it is.
that's my bad. That's on me.
Could backfire. Surprise. The guy was hiding. Anyways.
It might have been a happy accident.
Yeah, maybe he was trying to get home and you helped shortcut the situation.
And so I was like, I don't know where you are, good paladin. I never knew how I was going to get home.
So, that can happen.
Oh, that's fun.
The Channel Divinity options are, gonna be combat for the most part. I mean, there's some with temp HP you could kind of, as we like to say a lot of times, you see something that looks a little sketchy.
A little dangerous.
Maybe that chest, you thought it wiggled there for a second, so you're like,
that's a mimic.
What we give everybody
I swears to Bob, that's a mimic.
give everybody some temp HP before we go and check that out, just to be safe, for exploration, dungeon delving, that kind of stuff. It can help offset and save some spell slots for your party, so that can come into play a little bit. It's a little bit more on the niche side. Barring that, I mean, pretty much everything else is going to fall into combat. I mean, you're talking about when you deal radiant damage, your capstone, you're not going to be using those for RP. So we just gave it a 2 out of 5 in the roleplay.
Plus tenants. Because paladins
There's a little bit
of a bonus.
There's a little bit because they have to abide by their tenets or they could get punished accordingly.
Yes. They can have their, legitimately can have their subclass changed to Oathbreaker Paladin if they don't go on their tenets.
If they go completely against it repeatedly, obviously barring DM discretion and stuff.
Yeah.
But yes.
No other class can have that happen to them.
Or, some DMs, though, I've heard of them, taking away, you can't cast spells or you can't use certain features because you've been breaking your tenets, either willingly or unwillingly.
Which for flavor sense kind of makes sense.
Yeah, it's kind of built into the class as a flavor aspect.
It is. On to the combat side of things. Referring to the board again, you are a half-caster, but it's a wonderful spell list that you get access to. Whether it's restorations for removing ailments and such. Banishment is an underrated spell because it just says leave combat, and the reason why it's such a great spell is charisma save or leave. I have, as someone who currently plays a cleric, I have used that more times than I could count to even combat, even if it just lasts for like 3 turns. And I've completely removed something from combat for a few rounds. They're not doing anything for a while. Just go away. That's usually what I tell him if he's teaming. I'm going to base it as like, I would like him to leave. Thank you. Also counterspell, because it's yes you're a half caster, but you have a wonderful spell list to pick from, which maybe hurts your chances to do as much smiting because you want to cast those spells. But
That's true.
Anyway, the choices are there, and too many choices is never a bad thing.
Yeah.
Channel of any options, both. You have a defensive one giving you temp HP, never a bad thing, and you've got one that does damage and is a charisma saving throw. One of your top 2 saving throws to attack, obviously. And the radiant damage, so a good damage type. And it does scale with your paladin level, so you're going to get a very reliable floor. You know what that number's going to be every time. So, good stuff. And the fact that if you happen to be fighting aberrations, that thing becomes like an S tier ability. Like, that's one of the best channel divinities a paladin gets if you're fighting aberrations. Super campaign dependent because it's not the most common monster type. It's not like beasts or something like that. But again, if you happen to fight aberrations, you're just chomping at the bit to just be ready to make their day miserable. Then kind of what the rest of these kind of go with is if they hit, it can be really, really potent stuff. Your level 7 ability, the fact that it's not an aura is at least interesting because it's not like, okay, what's my aura going to be? Which, as a general rule, I do like the auras because most other classes don't have like a passive AoE, help buff to allies. So I do like them.
Looking at you, Twilight Cleric.
Yeah. Wasn't ready for that reference, so I liked it. But again, kind of the problem with the great spell list is when you use your Divine Smite feature, you get to then trigger advantage on something else. So that's great because either for you or somebody else to hit them, they're more likely to hit. You'd be a rogue's best friend because it's automatic sneak attack for them. And then in 18, it's triggering 2, so it does kind of level up exactly like an aura because of the level 18 kick. That way, it's just not an aura. It's still a fine feature. You're just, again, limited to your Divine Smite uses of popping that more often. And then your level 15 ability, I love everything about it, except for the fact that it attacks the Constitution saving throw.
Yeah.
Because as you get into late game, it's probably the worst saving throw to go after. Because even, like, casters of, like, higher level are usually going to have decent Constitution because they're going to have their own concentration spells that they want to be able to maintain. Right. I'm not saying it's going to be their top stat, but it's not going to be their dump stat either.
Right.
So that's
second or third.
Yeah, it's what you. So it's not great, but the good thing is there is no cost to it. It's just the first time you do radiant damage on a turn. So if you can get reactionary, opportunity attack, radiant damage somewhere else, wonderful. Forced to try to make that thing, or they're blinded, which blind's a great status condition to give. And finally, the capstone, regular BPS damage resistance, great. And it doesn't say non-magical; it's all BPS damage, so that's wonderful. Necrotic. Good. If you're fighting undead, it's incredible. The middle part, again, if you happen to be fighting aberrations, Sweet Mercy, you're going to be a problem getting the extra attack against them. And finally, the hit point thing. I don't think I can oversell how great that is because with healing, if it's a flat amount, it's much more helpful because you know what it's going to be. You're going to get 10 health. It's not rolling because few things feel worse when you're casting spells, healing or offensive spells, 3d6, 1, 1, 2, 4. You're like...
Yeah, it's awful.
I mean, level 3 fireball, and you're rolling all those dice, and half the numbers you roll are like 1s and 2s. You're just like, I get to do this twice a day, and I got 9 damage out of it. Out of a possible 48, I got 9. Yeah, so again, anytime you can get high floor stuff, it's bad luck proof. I like it. So, with all of that there, keep in mind the limitations of, Chain of Divinity's only times per day. The Constitution save is a little bit of a... And the extra potency really only goes toward, aberration creatures on a couple of those extra things. We did give it a 4 out of a possible 5 on combat.
Can definitely have some good utility options and to give you a little bit more well-rounded as a class.
Yeah.
So all that being said, going on to the synergy side of things, we kind of, stay in the same vein of thought process with how this grows. You do get that nice bonus to your smite for the effective guiding bolt, giving advantage. The only thing with that is you are relying on having something else within range to bounce off that attack.
Yeah. So if you happen to only fighting one thing, that ability does absolutely nothing.
Right. So that can be a little something on there. The Constitution save at 15. Again, you have to deal radiant damage as well. So first off, you have to either smite or use a spell, which, you're going to be smiting stuff.
Yes.
So there's that, especially if you have, multiple creatures within range, and you're definitely going to be smiting stuff to give that extra guiding bolt effect.
That's right.
So there is some synergy with that is nice, but it is a con save, and it's relying on radiant damage. So you are a half caster, so your spell slots, you don't have a ton of them to burn.
Yeah.
So it is nice when it does work, and it is free. But you only have so many uses of it.
The one thing I had talked to him about is you're just praying for somewhere along the way in your campaign that you find a magical weapon that lets you do radiant damage, even if it's just like 1d4 radiant damage on top of the... Like if it's like elemental weapon, but for radiant damage.
Yeah.
Because I think Holy Weapon's actually a spell you can give that does that, now that I think about it. I think that's one you could get. It would be a good choice for you specifically because even if it is a con save, if you hit the same thing enough times... with radiant damage, it's going to fail that sucker eventually.
Unless they have like a plus 18, which...
But, that's what it is.
Right. So, there are ways to do it.
Am I right, Holy Weapon thing?
Yeah, it is. Okay. It's 2d8 radiant. Yes, it does radiant. There's more to it than that. It's concentration and everything. But
right. But there is a way you can guarantee yourself radiant damage every turn on a hit. It is a level 5 spell. Yeah.
Yes,
it was 4 or 5. I knew Elemental Weapon's a 3.
It also has the effect where you can end it and do like the AoE burst, which is a con save. So I think that's really the thought behind it is like you kind of took the spell and get the part of the effect which is fine.
Which is a clever, creative idea.
No, it's definitely interesting to do that and give that as like that kind of feel to stuff. But
that's what they did with the guiding bolt thing in there too. It's
right,
great.
Exactly. So hey,
sure,
take note for that stuff. But yeah, the Channel Divinity options both solid. You are, however, very, very limited with your uses as a paladin.
Yes.
You're not a cleric. You don't get them back on short rest. So you got to be, pick and choose when to use those right. They are effective pretty much all the time. And it does have nice scaling for the damage side.
Yeah.
Healing is always more potent when it comes to action economy and stuff. It's valued more. Like, for example, you look at a level 1 spell that deals damage or a level 1 spell that heals. Mm-hmm. The damaging spell is usually twice as much, which if you look at this on here, it's...
Guiding Bolt is 4d6 damage and grants advantage. Cure Wounds is 1d8 plus modifier.
Yeah. So that shows you how much healing is valued as a benefit. Mm-hmm. So looking at that, and then the capstone is great too. The biggest thing for me on this is the Channel Divinity options are great, but they're very limited.
Yep.
The Aura thing is great, but you have to have 2 creatures at least within a range of 30 feet.
Yep.
The 15th level ability is solid when it hits, but it is blinded only until the end of its next turn, and it's a con save, and you have to deal radiant damage. So,
oh yes.
So, level 20 is very solid for the healing, but it's level 20. Now, if you're playing a paladin, you're probably gonna be thinking of a long-term campaign. Paladins, as a class, are probably one of the best base classes.
Yes.
Because they get so many features with smites and lay on hands and all these different things.
Spell things and martial weapons and heavy armor. And
so many things base class. So, all that being said, we went with a 3.5 out of 5 for the synergy. There's some great options, but I think it kind of falls into a little bit of weakness with the paladin, where there's maybe a little bit too much focus on things that require resources.
Yes.
Like, to deal radiant damage, if you don't have a magic weapon, or someone who giving holy weapon to you.
You have 2 different features that trigger on you spending a spell slot, which you're not a full caster of, essentially, to do a smite.
And you don't have a whole lot of spells for that.
Yeah.
So it's very potent when it does work, but you're going to have to pick and choose the times when to do it, or you will run out of resources really quickly.
Very quickly.
So definitely very interesting. I like the theme and flavor of it for sure. But yeah, again, this is like playtest area, so there could be some tweaks and changes to it in the future. It's definitely possible.
Yeah, if you're watching this a year after we posted it, they might have changed something. You're like, that's not what it says. Like, well, it was when we read it.
Yeah, right. So keep that in mind. But yeah, if you have any thoughts or updates or things you want to relay onto the team, make sure you let them know. But yeah, don't miss out on the Kickstarter.
And
Lots of cool
always
stuff.
be respectful.
Yes.
With positive, constructive criticism.
Yeah, it's difficult to make this kind of stuff. So especially when everyone's critiquing it, like us. But yeah. So yeah, definitely very interesting. Make sure you check out the Kickstarter. It's ending only in a couple days, so don't miss out on it.
Yes.
Great stuff on there. Lots of support. Definitely worth a look at the very least. Mm-hmm. But yeah, that's going to be for today, guys. If you enjoyed the video, like, subscribe, hit the bell notifications so you know when all of our new videos are coming out. Check out Dragonbond, and as always, thanks for watching.